Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Doctor. It's another beautiful morning out here in the Pacific Northwest. I hope your Friday is going absolutely fantastic wherever you might be and that you're able to take just a small break, get outside, and enjoy the weather. If you are new to my channel, do hit the subscribe button. We are trying to hit 5,000 subscribers, and I would really appreciate it. Tyrell. This is going to be the next free unit that we are going to be receiving in Global. If you didn't know, he does come with the Vinera banner. And since the Vinera banner is supposedly going to be next week, I figured we would go through and review all of the units from the banner, starting with the one that we are all going to have access to, the oddly dressed Tyrell. Now, if you don't know about Tyrell, he is a MR unit. He is not going to be as good as Gafgarion. I'm going to put that down first and foremost. His primary job is Knight, his secondary job is Viking, and his third job is Lancer. He is going to have access to sword, armor, and helmets. His master ability is HP plus 20% and slashing plus 10. However, that HP plus 20% really doesn't do much when you only have 1600 HP. This is going to be the first problem that we are going to run into with him. You can see he gets that HP plus 20%. He gets an additional HP 100 from his ability board. But as a Knight main class, he is struggling to push 2000 HP, which even some of the weaker UR units, even some of the mages have more HP than that. Yes, he does have some defensive utility, but also you'll notice if you look up here in the upper right hand corner, he has no resistance to slashing, no resistance to piercing. He's really probably going to die fast. Yes, he can equip heavy armor, but that's not going to save you when your HP is this low. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we are going through the review here. He only has a movement of 3 and a jump plus 1. You cannot enhance those in any ways. Another thing about him that is very unfortunate is his luck stat is 122, and he does get an additional 34 luck down here. His accuracy is going to suffer from that, but the one thing he does have going for him is his attack. At 195, he gets an additional 56, plus an additional 20%. That's easily going to push him at a base of about 270 attack, which is actually more than some UR units. His agility, though, is hurting at 49. He is the slowest MR unit in JP. He does get an additional plus 3, putting him to 52. That still clocks him, though, as the slowest unit. One important note about his additional ability board is he does get defense 6 and critical hit rate 12. Honestly, though, I don't think that defense 6 is going to be saving you at all with the low amount of HP that he has. And the critical hit rate is actually kind of nice, and we will talk about a potential critical hit rate build. Of course, we're going to see Sub Lancer here and Sub Viking, both of those jobs 100% viable for critical hit builds, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. He does have 10% resistance to fire. To add on to his weaknesses, he is 20% weak to lightning. All the Sids out there, all the Fredericas, they're going to butcher him if you try and take a Marina. So if you are a new player, do not invest in him. The one thing he really has going for him, though, is his TMR, and that is the Snake Fighter's Crown. An accuracy 12 and critical 15. Now, if you have the Alexandrite ring, of course you're thinking, well, even a low-quality Alexandrite ring is better than this. And you're absolutely correct. But for free-to-play players, for players who don't have access to another piece of Critical Plus equipment, this is going to be a very important piece of gear for you. And I would say it's probably 100% worth the investment if you are just getting into the game, and if you don't have access to other pieces of gear with Accuracy Plus and Critical Plus on them right now. Let's talk about his main abilities. He is a Knight main, and if you are familiar, that is going to be most of the breaks. You can see he will always have access to Power Break here. always access to Trinity, AP, TP break, pretty normal. He is going to get access to the passives, or he will always have access to them, sorry. So Holy Protection, which is going to be debuff resistance plus 15%, and HP up. I don't see you setting either of these. Maybe if you're pushing up tower, you're going to want some of that debuff resistance. Honestly, though, I think he has significantly other passives. Looking at his Night Job as a sub-job, it's going to grant him access to Magic Break, Speed Break, Arm Break. Honestly, those 3 abilities, nothing in there is going to be game-breaking for me. I think, honestly, if you're going to be using a break ability, you're probably just going to be using Power Break for the horizontal slash reach that it offers. He has so many other abilities in his toolkit, though, and I doubt you're going to be able to get him close enough to the opponent in order to use these attacks. He does get access to the counter Sword Guard, which I think is one of his best counters. Probably reduces damage, so he reduces damage when he takes an attack. And the proc of that is about 20 to 30%. I can't remember precisely. But it's going to be damage reduction 30%. So that can proc on physical damage. It can also proc on magical damage. For Viking sub, this is definitely one of the sub jobs I am going to recommend. I think if you're going the Viking sub route, you're probably going to be going for Launch, which is the ability Yerma is quite known for. It's going to be a damage that tends to cause critical damage to the target. So it's going to be a physical 165% attack. I think overall this is going to be incredibly powerful. It's very powerful with Yerma. This is going to be the attack that you're going to want to use with him if you are sub Viking. It does give access to Drain Cyclone for any type of PvE activity as well. So if you're looking at survivability, if you're looking for tower, this is going to be the sub job for you. In terms of the passives and the counter, I would not use this counter. It does have a chance to increase attack, but then you become Berserk. Definitely not something you want to do. Viking Tips as a passive is going to be HP limit and attack up by 12 and 24%. Of course, completely viable. And then Protection of the Arrow Shield. It's going to have a different name in Global, but it's going to be increased resistance to shooting attacks. So if we're in a meta right now with shooting enemies, so we have Lucia, we have Frederica, this is going to be very important if you're trying to progress through Arena. Honestly, though, the amount of shooting resistance that this gives is probably the standard 15%. And honestly, you're probably better off using a character who has naturally 15% shooting resistance than just throwing this on him. In terms of his Spearman sub, I think this is going to be the best sub. If you don't know the difference between Spearmen and Dragoons, Spearmen are very much more focused on critical hits. Sharp Spear, one of the strongest buffs in the game, gonna offer you upwards of a 39% critical hit rate boost for 3 turns, in addition to attack boost. Remember, he does have native critical hit rate, and he gets access to Nighthawk, which is a very long range attack, which can attack through walls. If you're guaranteed critting on that, it's gonna be a very powerful ability. Keep in mind, though, if you are using Nighthawk, his attack is going to be modified by piercing attack. So any slash attack damage you have with him is not going to help here. You're going to need piercing attack up or water attack up. His passives are going to be Secret of Piercing and then Deadly Secret. If you are going for the critical hit build, Deadly Secret is going to be imperative. It's going to increase the rate of critical hits. And if you are going that build, you're probably going to be using the Secret of Piercing, which is going to give you piercing attack up. So overall, what do I think about him? And let's go over the pros, and then we'll go over the cons. The first pro, obviously, is he's free. He's a free TMR. We're going to be easily able to MLB him if you want to invest the Rainbow Fragments into him. He's something where the shards are going to be fully available in the event in the shop, just like Ishtola, just like Gafgarion, and just like Etre. I think the TMR is decent. It's obviously not as good as an Alexandrite ring, for example. However, I think not everyone is going to have access to that Alexandrite ring. If you're new to the game, or maybe you only have 1 Alexandrite ring and you don't have 3 or 4, whatever it is, you will probably find at least some use for it. He has excellent sub-jump choices, missile resistance passive. I did the math for his critical hit rate. If you have his TMR, and if you have Sharp Spear, that ability we talked about, in addition to his native critical hit rate, he will have a 90% critical hit rate. That is without Espers, that is without anything else. So that's one of the highest critical hit rates in the game, and you can easily push him to have a 100% critical hit rate build. So definitely going to be the way I would recommend to go with him. He's very similar. He could fit into like a Elda and a King Rob build. Definitely something to think about. He gets that defense plus 6 passive, which is going to help him survive. Again, I'm not sure it's going to be enough. He also has access to armor. You're going to really just need to have to go full defensive on him. And just if there's a mage on the other team, just know that you're going to get shredded. His passive 270 attack is incredible once you count in all of the ability boards. Mont, for example, only has access to 215 attack with his passives. So we're going to be doing a lot more damage with him. He also has access to Nighthawk, which is going to be extremely powerful, and in my opinion is one of the best offensive abilities in the game. For the cons, his agility at 52 is the lowest agility for any MR unit. He has 1600 HP plus 20% plus 100, so he's just barely going to be pushing 2000 HP. He has low luck. He does have drain and defense, but honestly, the drain doesn't do much and the defense doesn't do much. I really don't see him being successful when you have access to other MRs that are judgingly better than him. I think you could choose to invest in almost any MR on your team and potentially have better results than him. However, he is free, he is easy to level up, so for anyone who is new to the game or still progressing through content, gonna be a perfect character for you. Finally, he does have low mobility, unfortunately, so he's not going to be able to charge forward. He makes up for a little bit with having, God, I keep wanting to call it Tomahawk. The Viking ability launch. I play Final Fantasy XIV, and whenever I think of launch and a Viking with an axe, I just always think of Tomahawk, which is the ranged warrior ability in Final Fantasy XIV. And he also has access to Nighthawk from Sub Lancer, so pretty much any of his subs are going to offer him range to make up for that low mobility. Still important to note, though, he has that low mobility. Overall, not as good as Gafgarion, and many MR are better than him. It's a nice TMR, though, and it's easily acquirable. So level him and use him for tower. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. I do appreciate it. Please drop a comment down in the comment section, hop in our Discord and come say hi. You can check me out on stream. I do stream every night except for Mondays and Thursdays. And yeah, guys, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope you are ready for your weekend. Talk to you later.